Hi, fellow tennis nerds. I'm here with Daniel. You've seen him before many times. We usually do these more philosophical racket discussions, and we're going to do that today. We're going to talk a little bit more about racket evolution, power.
Good, because you still get the normal vibrations in, but you don't have these harsh vibrations.
Last time he was, I think you were on the podcast. I don't remember exactly which of the many ones we did. Check them out, please, if you like this type of content. We have the one where we talk about heavy rackets. We have one where we talk about light rackets. We have one where we talk about his racket evolution going from Prince 93P, or like really Pro Staff 90.
Yes.
Testing every head size except above 100 square inch, and now ending up with a customized pure drive. And what's your new spec on that one? Because every time we talk, you have a new spec. You're kind of like a pro in that sense.
No, like, I think I'm not a pro. I'm more like a noob. That's why I have to.
I know many pros that change specs every tournament.
So I think I'm close to 340 swing weight. I think it's 338 probably. It's a swing weight. The weight is not that heavy anymore. It's with the pure drive, because it's such a stable racket. I could go down a lot. So I think I'm around 330. Like overall with overgrip and stuff, like 333, something like this is the weight. The balance point is pretty headlight. It's like, I think I'm around 34 centimeters at the moment, like with everything.
Oh wow, strung?
Yeah, strung.
All right, it's pretty. Yeah. This is kind of a thing that many favor. You have a two-handed backhand, then obviously it's a little bit easier to play more balance towards the head. When you have a one-handed backhand and you need to kind of get through that, it's kind of trickier.
Yeah, like I feel that it's a bit more tricky on the forehand. You have to be a bit more compact on the forehand with that. You cannot just let go because the racket head takes over. Yeah. But it's so much easier on the two-handed backhand because you have less leverage. Yeah. And then it feels more stable and on impact. So, but it's just like testing and stuff. So yeah. But this is now what I play for. I would say at least 2.5 months, something like this, 3 months.
It's not bad. Yeah. It's pretty good for a tennis nerd.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm pretty happy with that setup.
Yeah. And also, you're playing some really good players. You're playing guys who have been ranked like top like 500 in the world or something like that.
Yeah, so. Like the guy I trained with was I'm training at the moment is like was 380 in the world, I think, top ranking, and it's like 5 years ago. Okay. So yeah, he's just destroying me. But the hitting is great.
But you're a really good player, so you can definitely hit with these guys. And it's interesting with the journey. Today we tried a bunch of rackets. It was a windy day, it was a tough day, but hopefully we get something out of it. Obviously exercise, and it's always fun to play tennis, but sometimes in the wind it can be a bit complicated.
Yeah, but I like the challenge though, because you have to be mentally so stable to play in these conditions, because you just want to have a good time, right? You arrive here and then you're like, oh, I just want to hit, get some rhythm, right? And you get zero with these kind of wind,
because it was a blustery, so the wind was always moving, and you know that makes it more complicated to actually have a good rally. It's completely moving all the time. Compared to, was it yesterday or 2 days ago when we played, and it was like kind of still, and we had a
that was perfect,
really good
wonderful
practice,
day.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, in the power segment, I don't have every racket on the market here, but we have seen like a trend obviously towards thicker beams, more power. Most of these rackets are actually 98 square inch, except one here, and we can see also different in power level if you have a 98 square inch racket, which is kind of the control square inch of today. But now you have Aero 98s, which is not on the table, which is something I've been using. You have this Fire 98, but you started kind of really low powered, right? Like you started this, not with this is my racket, but you started in the prestige kind of segment, I would say. Like with the 93P, you could say almost it's a bit like a prestige playing racket.
I think it's even less powerful than the modern prestige that you have right now. Like I just, like we talked like a few days ago, and I looked up a video where I played in Morocco in the tennis club, and they had the 93P, and I was like, I looked at the footage and I'm like, how stupid was I back then playing with this kind of racket on clay? Like, it's just crazy how much work you need to put into to stay in rallies with good players.
Yeah, no, it's true. You have to put in a lot of work, and the racket does nothing, but you know where the ball is going. And that's the thing we were seeing. Like some pros, if you talk about the pro level, they still stay with the control rackets because it's so tough for them to switch. You know how their stroke has kind of been molded by the racket. I think your technique and your racket kind of molds together into one player.
I agree.
So for you, that must have been a big journey, like going from like a 90 or 93 with a pretty flexible feel, right? Pretty flexible playability to a stiff 100. You know, what did you have to adjust in this journey? Because I think many players are going through this and they probably give up way before they should, let's say.
We talked about this before, but I feel like the first step is the mental barrier. Just telling yourself, I'm not a man anymore, because like I'm used to playing like here, 90 square inch. That's completely fine. I will destroy everyone. And then you move up a head size, and just already like for me going up from a 93 to a 97 was like already like, I'm grandpa now, you know? The younger guys that grow up with these kind of rackets, that's why they play it, but you don't see a lot of like older guys like me playing tennis for a few years now, switching to these kind of modern frames. Usually they don't. They stay with what they know. They play the Prestige all the time, but then they're getting annoyed playing on clay against a 19-year-old who's playing insane spin, right? And then they're annoyed, and then they start playing just their age class because they think, oh, that's like, I cannot play with the young guys. You can play with them, but you like, it's fitness, but it's also the kind of tech they use. It's different to what we used to like 20, 25 years.
Yeah, and you have to give yourself time and mentally adjust to that this might hurt a bit. Like I might have to lose a bunch of matches before I get used to this racket, you know. And so, I mean, it's a nice feeling when the racket gives you exactly what you put in, like with the Prestige or one of the rackets you use today.
No, I don't agree with that. They give you less than you put in.
This is true. This is true. Which might lead to over rotation, and this is something we talked about as well. Like when you feel like your body has to do a lot more to get the same result. You know?
Yes, 100%.
And you see that, like, as soon as you start over-rotating, it's also like your control. If you're playing with a power racket and you over-rotate, the ball's just in the back fence. But you can miss-hit with the Prestige or even the Blade Pro, and still the ball might land in because, like, it has not so much power. So even if it goes the wrong direction, it's still, like, going in, you know? What do you feel about when you were playing with this one, for example, the Blade Pro, which is still popular on tour today?
Yeah, this one I actually enjoyed because this has some weight behind it. So it backs, like the low stiffness is backed up by some plow through because of the weight. So so I actually could play with it decently, but the lack of power means that I'm doing more work with the body, and I have to rotate more. I have to exert more force into the ball, and this leads to less precision, in my opinion. If I have a racket that does a lot on its own, then I can be more precise with the movement. With the good movement, and also with the striking zone. It's more clean, you know. So that's what I figured for me. But it like every player is different. But this is why this is what I like when I play with this kind of heavier, because 338 swing weight is pretty like heavy swing weight for a drive. But I like it's kind of still maneuverable. But I can be more precise. I can be solid. I can just get the weight in the ball easily. I don't have to jump into balls or to exert everything I have into the ball. Like every time play 110%. Like an 80% ball is enough to be neutral, that you don't get like hit out of the course, basically. So.
Yeah, I think this is interesting. I mean, so we see still like players using some form of blade. Many Blade Pros still on tour. It's a very solid racket. It gives you exactly what you put into it, or less. You can argue, but it's if you weigh it up and you manage to swing with it, I think it's a very good racket still. But now you see a trend like with. I mean, you have like Landaluthe now. He was doing really well, beat Kachanov in Miami. But then you have seen also Kachanov, who used to play this racket, and that they're going more towards this one, which is like P98. People call it Python, it's going to be called something else. This is the prototype. And what you get, and this we discussed a little bit, you're getting a bit more. I'm not really allowed to review this racket, and it's also not exactly the retail one. But I also play the retail, and you're not getting loads more than this, but it's a bit more. And that's I guess what you're not getting aero level, right? Like, but you're getting like a little bit more. What was your feeling like if you just play this side by side, kind of?
Yeah, this is the like the black level one. The prototype is like, this is a modern frame that you can feel. It's a bit stiffer, but it has less weight behind the ball. You get the power from the stiffness more, but it's not like really a crazy step up, and that's why I understand that pros can change or switch quickly to it, because it's not like you're getting 20% more power. It's just a tiny bit more pop on it. If you ask me, I'm not really convinced that this is a competitor to the Aero, for example, or to the Pure Drive when it comes to power level, as it is here as the prototype. I cannot say more than this, but I understand why they're switching, because you get a little bit more. It's more maneuverable as well. So if you're late, if you're getting pushed around, it's easier to get the contact right. If the racket is a bit more maneuverable, so I understand why they're switching to these.
Yeah, maybe the aerodynamic properties with the rounded throat and the rounded beam compared to this very boxy beam makes the racket travel also a little bit faster through the air, which if you spec them the same will feel like this one is faster, and you can probably generate a bit more spin, and also with the stiffness you get some pop. Feel wise, I think this wins in every category pretty much in terms of feel, but tennis is not all about feel anymore. You need obviously to get power. We also interesting saw like that, so that's what you're seeing on Pro Tour now. You had Dimitro also trying from Pro Staff to Python, so you're seeing lots and lots of players moving to this new line, and obviously it's something Wilson want them to do because they're going to do a big release in July, and that's going to, the more players that play with it, the better the racket looks. Of course, Korda is playing really well, had a good win against Alcaraz, for example. But then also he could have had a win with maybe the Blade on the right day, you know, the Blade 18-19. So, but you tried also the Fire. We reviewed that in a separate video. And even these two, you compare this T-Fight, which is kind of an in-between racket. It's not a Blade because it has more power, more stiffness. And the Fire, which is more like a spin power racket and more like the Pure Drive 98. And what you say, I mean, this has a lot more power than this one, which is kind of
this is a completely different category. It's not like you have this here with the Blade and the Python where it's just a tiny bit more power. It's just completely different. It's just, this is just another level. As I got used to the more powerful frames, I like the Fire. Like, I really enjoyed hitting with it. Like, you still have decent control, decently enough though. It's a lot of power, but you can control the racket. You get lift on it. I like the racket. So
the Fire was good. I think it's maybe their best racket.
This one I tried with you as well, but this is some time back. I didn't play today, so I cannot really comment on this today.
No, it's a bit more of a powerful blade. Like so, I get the idea. And then in between all this, we obviously have an in-between category which are like speeds. Wilson, like maybe the Blade Pro, which is the old Steam 100, like these rackets that are like giving you some power, some control. It's a little bit trying to be everything, you know. And then you have Sinner playing with a more powerful version. You played with the speeds in the past, but it's not been like your racket kind of line.
I like the new Legend one they put out.
We tried that, the 1820 one.
Yes, this one was really nice. I think because of the pretty high swing weight stock, we tried it stock as well, and it's close to 330, I think. So this felt very solid, and although the stiffness was low, it didn't feel like too mushy on impact. So you had still enough on it. This one I liked. I also played the Sinner one. This one is very powerful compared to the others.
It's
like
shockingly powerful actually, because you get it in the spec of like Yannick, which is very light, like by memory 302 grams, 32.3 centimeters, and 296 swing weight, which is much lighter than you think, but I measured it in Vienna. And you're like, how can the racket be so powerful? Like with the spec, you know? Yeah,
this is very powerful. Like, I think the string bed is a bit different, but it's a very powerful.
Shared holes as well, you know.
Yeah. Okay. So this was a great racket. Like I think the Speed is a great racket if you want to transition from like as they did it here, like with the Blade and the Python. So the power level is not too crazy, so you can transition easily. Because like I also had the journey going up. Like I didn't go from the Prestige to the Pure Drive immediately. Like no chance. This was just a few years of evolution basically going there. And I don't think you can really, especially when you're a competitive player, you cannot just grab it and you want to have fun in a tournament or in matches, in league matches or whatever you play. You cannot just play the Prestige and then play for 2 weeks and play with the Pure Drive. This is like, your technique also evolves around the racket you play. So,
exactly. No, you need to give yourself time and patience, and that's the same for the pros. So when you see them switching, like they go from one racket and they play one match and then they go from to another racket, it's impossible, because even like on my low level, like I play, if I play a match, I want to play with a racket I know, right? Like I don't want to. Otherwise, I just have to say, okay, if I lose straight sets, I have to play the next match as well, and I have to play the next match as well with the same racket. But you know how tennis feels when you start losing. You question everything. You know, so
Yeah, and mostly tennis players question everything else except them.
yes, this is a
so-
disease. I think a tennis disease. I think maybe it's true in all sports. Not so familiar with all competitive sports, but in tennis it's like, you know, the coach, the weather, the food, my box, my racket, the strings,
balls.
the stringer, the balls. I think we can find easily 20 things you can complain. That is not your footwork, not your maybe mental strength when you go into a match. You maybe have the wrong mindset. You know, you let yourself down a bit. So it's always good to look inwards first and then you look outwards. But
Yes.
I think in tennis, your ego is so protected that you're going everywhere. You know, like this.
Yeah, the thing is, like, for most people it's difficult to be open-minded about it, but I think this goes hand in hand. You have to look inside, but you also have to look for technology, because this is a big difference. Like when you test these kind of rackets, and I'm doing it with you, like I'm playing with the rackets
Yeah.
here, I test a lot. We discuss the rackets, also the new ones you have. But every time I go back to my racket, I'm like, oh, I'm relieved that I can play with this now, because then I feel, okay, I did a great job. If I played with another racket and I feel like this is better than mine, then I have to question it. But not a lot of people, especially in tennis, because it's a pretty traditional conservative sport,
Yeah.
are not open to like thinking about it and maybe changing or adjusting or whatever. So I think this goes hand in hand, like being open-minded, thinking about yourself, my footwork, do I work out enough, do I sleep enough, blah blah blah, all these kind
All
of
these
things.
things add up. Yeah.
But also about the technology that is evolving, and maybe you can benefit from it. Maybe you don't. Maybe you don't want to change technique, or you don't want to think about it. Then it's fine. But I think if you want to evolve as a tennis player, you also have to think about technology.
Yeah. And you gotta be careful of not stepping straight into the rabbit hole of like just trying everything. I think maybe you can test a bit and see, but then give you a short period, and then don't allow yourself to test anymore. Like I'm talking competitive players now. I'm not talking about myself or players who love testing rackets, because it's a different thing. But if you're trying to win tournaments or win matches, then give yourself like off season, or give yourself a short period, and then you stick to one racket no matter what for a while. Give yourself 3 to 6, whatever, 9 months. And then maybe you question again, but you cannot keep questioning everything all the time, because then our human brains cannot like deal with this, you know.
No, and you don't get any muscle memory going. You need it. Like like I felt when I switched to this racket that like I needed at least 6 weeks to like to play every shot, to have a feel for shots, to realize what is actually good and not good about this racket, what to adjust about the racket, and it's always a trade-off. It's not like you grab a racket and you're like, okay, this is the perfect racket for every shot. Like the Pure Drive does not work as well for me on touch shots and on like touch volleys, moving the ball around easier. This is way better with like kind of blade or pro stuff or whatever. You get more feel with it. But like the thing is, in competitive tennis, how often do I need these kind of shots?
Yeah.
And how often do I need a powerful forehand or a powerful serve, right?
Yeah.
So, and then it's a trade-off. Then I have to, like, if I'm competitive and I want to win matches, then maybe I go with the Pure Drive, because I say the return, the serve, and my forehand are the most important strokes. This is great with this racket, so I'm going to play with it. If you just play for fun and you want to have a good time on the court, stick with the Prestige. It's more fun. You can play around a bit more. Like I understand this as well, like this approach. But I think for a competitive player, you have to think about what you actually need on the court and then go with it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's you have to be very kind of like level-headed and smart about what you are good at and what you're not good at, and what you statistically maybe even will need. You know, like the serve for most pros is so important that if you're dropping the serve percentage-wise with a racket, I don't think it's going to be a great change.
Yes.
You need like obviously serves and returns on the pro tour. Those are the most important shots, I would say, because everyone, when the rally is going, they can find their way around it because they're talented and athletic enough. But like if you lose stuff on serve, or if your returns are dropping in terms of percentage, I think it can be very dangerous. You know, you see that in the stats. You know, and most rallies are shorter than 4 shots. You know, so it's like those 2 shots are super important, because that's how you started. You know?
Yeah.
So you need this like stability and power, I think, are becoming more important, because you feel like you want to be able to just get it blocked back, or get like something extra on a shot that is you know very, very quick for you, like the return or the serve.
And I think it makes a big difference on the court when you get like 1, 2, 3 miles per hour quicker shots, right?
Yeah.
This can be the difference between a winner or or a forced arrow or whatever, or you are still in the rally, you know. So
Yes.
I think that's why it makes sense to think about what are my strengths on the court, what do I need to do on the court, and if you're competitive, it's like serve, return, the first 2 shots.
Yeah.
You need like, and then okay, my drop shots are not that great with the pure drive, yeah, or the volleys I can maneuver easier with a different racket, yeah. But how often do I actually need this?
Yeah.
So,
And you're seeing this interesting, talking about pro player tennis, like it is a lot of trend talk now, like so that people are looking at each other more than they ever did. I don't think people used to think about rackets so much in the past, but
Yeah.
now they're like, oh, everybody's playing with the Arrow, this one, you know, the 98, 2023, and they have to try it, you know. So is there any magic in this racket? This is also one of those rackets I would say that probably, like we discussed this before, like you've been testing rackets with me for years now, and also testing for yourself before that, but most rackets we test are like, this is good, but you know, I would say that this is like the most common response we have. It's like, this racket is not bad, but it's not wow.
yeah, and or it's just for a specific group, you know,
Yeah.
like it's not a racket that you would recommend overall as a racket that everybody can play from recreational up to a competitive player.
No, that's tough. Even though the margins like of specs are closer than ever, like between a club player and a pro player, it still feels like, you know, the rackets are, you know, they cannot be everything. So they're obviously going to end up in one segment or the other, you know, at all points. Like this one, yes, of course, I think for pros can be played pretty easily, but then like to the rec level is a bit too demanding.
No. It's also too heavy for that.
Yeah.
Like the swing weight is just too high for
an average player.
yes, to
I agree.
maneuver it for 2 hours.
Yeah, and that's what you have to think. If you want to play well in matches, you have to think like, what is this going to do for 2 hours compared to like the first 30 minutes of hitting? You know? This one is one of the best rackets I think released in many years because of its pretty wide appeal, and it has like some magic inside of it. You played it for a while, but you played the BS. It's not for everyone. It doesn't do everything well, but it has that wow factor in what it does well, right, let's say. So there's some rackets that bring
Yes.
that to the table. They're not like balanced rackets, but what they do like extremely well for the right type of player, you know. Like for example, you can talk about this Prestige from the MP in the 2019. It's just like one of the best feeling rackets, but it's a field racket. It does volleys, slices, you know, those kind of shots, but ground strokes, you're gonna have to put in a lot of work on the ground.
You don't get any depth or penetration for free on the court.
One new racket we can add as a side note here, add that to the Mizuno review. You haven't tried the Acro Strike, which is the 98. We'll talk about that in the review as well. But this has been a pretty positive experience for both of us, right? The acrospeed, completely new racket. Mizuno back on the racket market, like first time in 14 years maybe. What did you feel about this one? You liked it more with the original string, but overall you thought it was pretty good.
No, this is a great racket. It's 100 square inch, so maybe I'm a bit biased because I'm playing with
These days,
with
yes,
the
maybe a bit
100
biased,
square
but-
inch racket. But the string bed is very predictable. It's very comfortable. It's even like this is way more comfortable than the pure drive, I must say. And it's still very powerful. It has like it was different with the 2 strings, but it still has some decent pocketing.
Yeah.
So this racket I really enjoyed. I think this is a racket that could be played by competitive players if they like a more plush, let's say plush pure drive.
It's
feel.
a little bit muted of a pure drive, I would say. So it's more
Yeah.
muted. The pure drive is kind of raw. This one is muted. So what happened was we had a pretty raw string, put a more muted string, became a little bit too mushy. So it shows like, again, pairing this right racket with
Yeah.
the right string, because this string worked well in the very pingy Pure Aero 100 from 2026, like the new Aero 100. The same string worked really well with because this vibrates a lot. This doesn't vibrate at all.
No.
So you put that string, which is the A5, it was a bit too dampened and muted the feel a bit. So you want like a raw, like tour bite, maybe kind of a crisp string in that one, But in this one, it worked really well. So that's what you have to kind of figure out as well. But that's it's a later stage of the game. You're probably you've figured out your string setup for now, I guess. But you keep testing a little bit.
Yeah. Like, but on this racket, I feel like also like not only competitive but also recreation players could just grab this racket
it's
and
so
play.
easy to play,
It's
yeah,
so like this is such a great racket, and it doesn't have any hot spots like on the string bed that you have the feeling that this thing is flying or something. It's not too harsh to the arm. So this was a pretty good racket. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a thumbs up for me as well. We did like this racket. It has everything like a power racket should have, especially for the recreational player with that kind of arm-friendly, easy to play, but you're not going to worry about the ball just sailing because it's up to you, right? Like the ball has a pretty controlled launch angle, which is not so common. Like some of these rackets, you get power, but then you don't know where the ball is going to go. From
Exactly.
time to time,
Yeah.
you know?
And this one was like straight line power. That was massive. So this is a great racket. Yeah.
Yeah, so overall, like rackets now, they're released, they are overall very good, even from relatively unknown brands to the most known brands here. But you obviously need to demo. I think it's a lot about feel. And I wouldn't worry too much about customization unless maybe you are on a slightly higher level. Let's say your level, because then it might make sense. But this one, you can play in stock form even up to a pretty decent level, I would say. Where you play, like when you play in competitive like German leagues and stuff, of course, then yeah, customizing your pure drives makes sense, and making sure they're the same always makes sense. But I don't think a lot of people need to kind of worry too much about customization.
Yeah, like it depends on the level. It depends on how tall you are, how your strokes are, what technique you have. Right? I'm a bit more of an like old school player when it comes to technique.
Yes,
and
you have very clean technique.
And when you have this kind of modern technique with more extreme grips, then you cannot play with my swing weight because it's too high. You just cannot move the racket around. So I think there are so many things you have to think about if you customize. I usually would start with with the stock thing and then try to do something about it later.
Depending on how you feel about it, but you start stock. And it's interesting, we talked about this today, like when you're playing like a low powered racket. But if you're like Taylor Fritz, who plays like a really light racket that has almost no power because it's an old Radical MP, but he's like has really long arms and hitting like this, and then you're making more power, obviously like with this
the leverage he has with the arms. That's why I feel like bigger guys can play lower in swing weight because they have more reach and more leverage. And if you're smaller, you saw that with Schwartzman, right? He played like 380 swing weight or something.
It's a 28-inch, but the same racket. So that's an interesting thing. Like, so we have Fritz and Schwartzman. They play the same racket model, but one is 28 inches and crazy swing weight, and one is like stock almost, So it's like it shows, how different the way they hit their physical build up, is so different, right?
Yeah. So I think that's very, very personal. What racket you like. That's why you have to test. And I think I said it to you like a few days ago. I feel like there's so many good rackets, and also from the smaller brands now, that it becomes a bit like the string market, where you can get completely lost in it because there's so many options and you don't actually know what you like. So I think you have to think, when you think about rackets, more about the category you want to go in, and then just test a few in this category and see what you actually like. Then.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, you have to think about the category that might suit you, and if you want to experiment, I would recommend demoing, like borrowing from a friend or something. And testing first, so you get like maybe you can cut out some rackets. Say, okay, this is not for me. Usually within 5-10 minutes, like, okay, you should give a racket a chance. But if you really don't like it after 10, I feel like you probably won't like it after a week.
Yeah, the thing is, like, if you want a racket that suits your game, then this is the right approach. If you feel like this is what I did, you want to get to a power racket and control it, then you have to be committed to give it way more time.
Yes.
Then you have to get a racket that feels great, but okay, there will be like, I have 2 or 3 weeks where everything is flying because I have to adjust my technique a bit to get more power, but still the control that you need. So I think it's like, if you just look for a racket where you feel like it has to suit my game, then I agree. 10-15 minutes, then you know if this suits your game or not. But if you say, okay, I want to commit to a more powerful frame, then I think you have to give it a few more weeks to adjust and then see where it goes.
Yeah, you need to give it time, because if you believe in the process, or in that this racket might work for me because I like what the power I get, for example, or the spin, but it's just flying on certain shots, like you said, then adjustment period you might be able to change your technique enough to actually work with it, but you have to give it time. You cannot like stop. You play one bad training and then you stop. It's not.
Yeah.
Then you'll never get there, right? So
Yes.
it's the philosophy of the switch. But yeah, the racket market is getting more and more congested than ever before. There's so many different models. I hope some brands might kill off some models maybe, or just maybe make it a little bit easier for you as consumers and myself as well to choose, because now if every brand has 4 different racket silos and then maybe every silo has 5 models, it's a lot of rackets. You know?
Yes, and what I feel is then it's getting too nuanced, the differences. Like you need stronger differences in the racket so you actually can decide as a consumer what you want, right? If they all like just incremental steps, then you can play with whatever at the end of the day. So.
My feeling is that the pure and power, like spin and power rackets probably will merge more, not to be like so crazy with the spin, because that was when it came, it was like, okay, this is a crazy spin racket. But I think like you can make an Eson and a V-Core kind of similar racket, like and just make them more similar, and they will still be suiting a lot of different players. I don't think necessarily you need power and spin categories. I definitely feel more like it's like more of a modern and maybe a more control-oriented category would make more sense to have less confusion, because like everybody wants power, everybody wants spin. So having those 2 options, like, oh, I want power, but I also want spin. Like, where do you go?
Yeah.
It makes more sense to have maybe a one option for both. Right?
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Daniel. We got through some different thoughts about switching rackets and about what's happening on the Pro Player Tour, but also what you can learn from it, hopefully, at home when you're choosing your next racket. And give yourself time and have fun with it. You know, tennis is fun. It's not a...
Exactly.
If you're not there to make money with tennis, you know...
Yeah, and everybody outside the top 100 is not there.
So it's true. We had that discussion before. If you're not the top 100, then it's tough to make money with tennis. You know, it's kind of how it is. Well, thanks. Have a nice day now, and
don't forget to play some tennis. Thank you for having me.